A rocking chair, long emptied of its occupant, continued its slow, deliberate sway in the silent, moonlit room. No breeze stirred the heavy curtains, yet the chilling creak echoed like a final, desperate whisper, a testament to the unexplained forces that had shattered a family's peace and left behind a fortune tainted by dread. The official reports dismissed it, but those who inherited the silence knew the truth. If you enjoy haunted tales and mysteries like this one, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss how this story unfolds. The iron gates of Blackwood Manor groaned a metallic protest as Michael pushed them open, the sound swallowed almost immediately by the dense fog that had rolled in from Narragansett Bay, clinging to the ancient oaks lining the driveway. It was late October in Providence, and the air was thick with the scent of wet, fallen leaves and an oppressive chill that seemed to seep into the bones. Michael, in his mid-30s, with dark brown hair perpetually falling across his hazel eyes, and a lean frame that belied his profession as an independent art restorer, had inherited the estate from a great-aunt he'd barely known, Eleanor Vance. The solicitor's letter had spoken of considerable assets, the manor being the largest, a decaying testament to a forgotten lineage, now his. His worn sedan crunched over the gravel, the house emerging from the mist like a spectral leviathan. Its Gothic Revival architecture, with its sharp gables and intricate gargoyles, loomed against the pale sky, windows like vacant eyes staring out. For Michael, a man always scraping by, the inheritance was a bewildering, life-altering windfall, a fortune of sorts, albeit one wrapped in crumbling brick and generations of dust. The initial thrill of financial security, of finally owning something substantial, had begun to curdle into a vague unease the moment he'd stepped onto the property. Inside, the silence was profound, broken only by the drip of rain against the leaded glass windows and the distant moan of a foghorn. Dust motes danced in the sparse light filtering through grimy panes, illuminating antique furniture shrouded in white sheets, like ghosts awaiting resurrection. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of aged wood, and something else, something indefinable and unsettling. He made his way through the cavernous foyer, past the grand winding staircase that disappeared into shadows, his footsteps echoing unnaturally loud on the polished floorboards. He was here to catalog, to assess, to perhaps eventually sell this piece of inherited history, but a cold dread was already prickling at the back of his neck. This was not just a house, it felt like a mausoleum holding secrets. The sheer scale of the place and the knowledge of the immense wealth it once represented now felt more like a burden than a blessing, particularly as the fog outside seemed to press in, making the ancient timbers creak as if under an unseen weight. He found the study, a vast room dominated by dark wood paneling and overflowing bookshelves. A large, ornate desk sat in the center, and beside it, almost ironically, was a lone rocking chair. It sat at an odd angle, facing the empty fireplace, as if its occupant had only just risen, leaving behind a lingering imprint of stillness that felt anything but peaceful. He ran a hand over its smooth, worn armrest, a shiver tracing its way up his spine. The air in this particular room seemed colder, denser. He felt a distinct, disturbing sense of not being alone, despite the absolute solitude of the decaying manor, an inheritance so grand it threatened to consume him. He stared at the rocking chair, its stillness more unnerving than any movement. The distinct chill in the study wasn't merely a draft. It was an internal cold, a sensation of being watched. Michael, a practical man, dismissed the feeling as fatigue and the lingering influence of ghost stories. He had work to do, an estate to assess, an inheritance of considerable value to catalog. His gaze swept the vast mahogany desk, cluttered with leather-bound books and a dusty antique globe. He noticed a small, intricately carved wooden box, tucked partly beneath old ledgers. Curiosity, overriding discomfort, Michael reached for it. The wood was cool, aged but smooth. Inside, he found not jewels, but a single, brittle, handwritten letter, sealed with a broken wax emblem and a small, tarnished silver key. The ledgers, pulled closer, were detailed financial records meticulously kept, charting vast sums, properties, and investments far exceeding what the solicitor had implied. Eleanor Vance's fortune, it seemed, was even more immense, built perhaps on secrets as sturdy as the manor's foundations. A sudden, sharp gust of wind rattled the leaded glass, sending a shiver through the room. The rain outside intensified, drumming a frantic rhythm, mirroring Michael's quickening pulse. He unfolded the letter, its paper thin and yellowed. The elegant script, though faded, was clear. It was a formal warning, dated almost a century ago, from a lawyer to an ancestor, advising against a certain acquisition due to unforeseen and persistent complications, financially and existentially ruinous. It spoke of a deep, unquantifiable cost, far beyond monetary value, incurred by those who sought to exploit what lay beneath the property, detailing clandestine transactions and a desperate plea to abandon a particular excavation project. As Michael absorbed the chilling implications, a faint scraping sound emanated from behind the grand fireplace. It was subtle, almost imperceptible over the escalating storm, but distinct enough to make him freeze. He glanced towards the fireplace, then slowly, instinctively, back to the rocking chair. It was now swaying, gently, rhythmically, as if someone had just risen, leaving an invisible current. There was no breeze, no open window. The air grew perceptibly colder, and a faint metallic tang, like old blood and damp earth, permeated the heavy atmosphere, a taste of the existentially ruinous cost that now seemed to be demanding its due. Michael's breath hitched, the letter crinkling in his trembling hand. The rocking chair, a silent sentinel moments before, continued its spectral rhythm, a slow, deliberate swing that defied explanation. His rational mind screamed at him to find a draft, a settling of the old house, anything but the impossible. But the scraping, faint yet insistent, from the fireplace, paired with the letter's dire warning, anchored him to a growing terror. The metallic tang in the air sharpened, cold and earthy, an odor that spoke of deep, buried secrets. Outside, the rain hammered against the windows, a furious, percussive accompaniment to his rising panic, blurring the edges of the already oppressive fog. He forced himself to move, each step towards the ornate fireplace feeling like a monumental effort. The heavy marble mantelpiece was cold beneath his fingertips. He scanned the intricately carved facade, searching for any anomaly. The scraping, meanwhile, had stopped, replaced by an unnerving stillness that felt pregnant with unseen presence. His eyes narrowed, tracing the lines of the dark stone, and then he saw it, a faint, almost invisible seam in the aged mortar near the hearth, just behind where the scraping had seemed to originate. It was barely a hairline fracture, yet it suggested a hidden panel, concealed with masterful precision. The small silver key from the box, still clutched in his other hand, suddenly felt significant.
He tried prying at the seam with his fingernails, then with the key, but the panel remained stubbornly shut. Frustration mixed with a surging wave of dread. This wasn't merely a house, it was a sealed vault, guarding not just Eleanor Vance's untold wealth, but a monstrous legacy hinted at in the century-old letter. He thought of the financially and existentially ruinous complications, the clandestine transactions that secured his ancestors' fortune. What kind of secret could taint such immense riches so thoroughly? As he pressed harder against the hidden seam, a faint vibration ran through the stone, accompanied by a low, guttural groan that seemed to emanate from within the very foundations of the manor, a sound swallowed by the intensifying storm outside, but utterly clear to him. The rocking chair, with a final chilling creak, lurched forward slightly, then settled, perfectly still. But now, as Michael looked back, a faint, translucent impression of a seated figure seemed to shimmer in its hollow, empty space, a chilling outline that faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving him utterly alone, yet profoundly watched.
Michael's fingers, still clutching the small silver key, found the almost invisible keyhole on the ornate marble, precisely where the faint seam lay. A cold dread seeped into him as the key slid in with unnerving ease, turning with a soft, metallic click. The hidden panel, stiff for a century, ground open inwards, revealing not a dusty safe, but a gaping, Stygian shaft descending into utter blackness. A blast of frigid, foul air, thick with the scent of damp earth and something acridly metallic, surged upwards, making him gag. It was the smell of something ancient, long buried, and profoundly wrong, far worse than anything the fog outside could conjure. He fumbled for his phone, its flashlight beam a pathetic spear against the profound darkness. The light struggled to penetrate the abyss, but it caught glimpses of rough-hewn stone walls, not carved by human hands, spiraling downwards. Grotesque, non-human figures were crudely etched into the rock, performing bizarre, ritualistic acts, seemingly offering indistinct shapes to a colossal, formless entity at the bottom. The images hinted at an exchange, power, influence, and immense, unholy wealth granted in return for what? The letters financially and existentially ruinous acquisitions and clandestine transactions clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Eleanor Vance's fortune, the generations of inherited riches, wasn't just built on exploitation, it was paid for. As his light illuminated the deepest shadows, a low, guttural murmur ascended, not as a sound, but as an invasive thought, a chilling, psychic echo of ancient hunger. It vibrated directly within his skull, a promise of unspeakable consumption. Simultaneously, the entire manor seemed to shudder, a deep, resonant groan emanating from its very foundations, mirrored by a sudden violent hailstorm that erupted outside, rattling the windows with furious intensity. He heard a distinct, frantic creak from the rocking chair in the unseen part of the study behind him, a frantic rhythm of impossible movement, a terrible, unseen audience. Michael slammed the panel shut, the silver key twisting and locking it with a final sickening thud. He tried to pull the key out, but it was stuck fast, permanently sealing the entrance to the abyss. He stumbled back, away from the fireplace, away from the study, a single, terrifying realization dawning on him. The immense wealth, the inherited fortune of the Vance family was not a blessing, but a generational curse, a binding pact. They weren't just landlords, they were jailers,
Or perhaps caretakers, tasked with containing something that now stirred beneath the very stones of Blackwood Manor, demanding its due. He fled the house, leaving the key in the locked panel, the echo of the groan and the incomprehensible whispers permanently imprinted on his mind. The hail outside battered his car, a fitting accompaniment to the terror that now clung to every stone of the immense estate. He never returned. The truth of Eleanor Vance's fortune, of the family's enduring wealth, lay buried not in ledgers, but in the suffocating darkness beneath the hearth. An unspeakable pact, a cost too great to bear. What do you think really happened? What's your theory on this mystery? Leave your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.